This episode of the podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Visit patreon.com/lightscameranonsense to help support your favorite new movie podcast. Now, let's roll that reel.
You haven't packed him away for the move, right?
No, he's not in a box yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're all in a box sack.
That's true. Society places us in boxes.
From the womb, our initial box, to the box that we end up
to the grave,
which is our final box. The world is boxes. The life is boxes.
We're in a interesting mood today.
Yeah, we're kind of in a weird, kind of sloppy, are we depressed or are we excited to be here? I don't know.
You watch one grim, dark Batman movie, it just changes your perception.
Everything is dark. Everything is ruined. I went from 2008 being really upset about Robert Pattinson playing a Bat person to 2022 being somewhat surprised by his Bat personality. You know, he can't get away from it. But speaking of, hello everyone. I went in way too fast.
Yeah.
I went in way too fast. Hold on.
If I had a nickel.
It only happens like every other podcast, you know. That's okay. We're professionals. Hello everyone, and welcome to Lights Camera Nonsense, where we give you all the latest movie magic you may have missed. I'm Nick Avengers Simmons.
And I'm Zach, T-minus 17 days until I can finally watch No Way Home Smith.
You know what? Who's our producer today? Is it Marley? Marley, can you put in a Spider-Man No Way Home spoiler clip right there at the right when he says that? Perfect. Thank you.
Oh man, if I watched back any of our podcasts, he would have gotten me there.
Yeah. Oh wait, well fuck you, man. Why can't you just enjoy the product that you're a part of?
I enjoy it auditorily.
That's right. Yeah, laugh it off.
Occasionally.
Laugh it off. Son of a bitch. And on Saturday, March 5th, 2022, let's dive into the previews. If you're actually watching us on YouTube, you're watching us way later than we actually premiere episodes. They're actually on our Patreon at patreon.com/goodgoose, where we post all of our content, including bonus videos and bonus content related to each episode. Zach, over the last couple of weeks, we've posted so many videos and so many fun little games that I like to play with you, because I'm a sick fuck.
Yeah, I just call you Paul Dano.
Hey, I'm the Swiss Army Man. Oh no, wait, Daniel Radcliffe, I guess in that context would be the Swiss Army Man. Can you be my farting? Can you be my farting corpse, Harry Potter?
I don't want to be. I can be a farter, but I don't want to be a corpse.
You could just pretend. It's the easiest acting job in the world. Harry Potter said so.
I don't know. I've tried not breathing for periods of time, and it gets really difficult.
I just realized that I've had this galaxy light on. That's what that blue light has been. It wasn't like the cops were right outside my door. It was just... I forgot that I had the lights off. I was taking a little nappy poo before the podcast, and yeah. God, that is...
Come out with your hands up. You're talking about Paul Dano way too much. No one should ever talk about Paul Dano this much.
You exceeded the Paul Dano quota that you... What's wrong with... There's nothing wrong with Paul Dano. Paul Dano's a fantastic actor.
No. Yeah, he's great.
Why are we dissing him?
I'm not.
Why are we dissing
the cops?
Dissing the Dano? What police force would enforce that?
The anti-Dano force. The ADF.
The ADF? I'm pretty sure that's...
I think that's like an
short
actual
for
thing.
something else. I'll put in the definition right there. But if you don't want to support us for only $1 a month at our Patreon at patreon.com/goodgoose, that's totally fine. You can watch our content on YouTube when it premieres, or you can just listen to us on every podcast service of your choice, whether that be Spotify, Last.fm, iTunes, any podcast service that you look to download even better podcasts than this. We're there as well. Just slowly slipping into your DMs, into your social media, whether you like it or not. So. Also, if you actually do subscribe to us at our Patreon at patreon.com/goodgoose, and you want to support us even more, and you feel like, you know what, I feel like I'm missing a hat or a T-shirt representing these two lovely boys. And
I often find myself thinking I don't have a hat when I should.
I feel like I'm missing severe like forehead cover. I need to just
nobody wants to see this much of my forehead.
It's too much, and you need to block out the sun. I don't know. Do we actually sell hats in our store? We're gonna make that a thing. We're gonna make it a thing after this episode. So, if you'd like to support us in apparel form, go to store.lightscameranonsense.com, and we've got merch there, including this T-shirt. But let's dive into the podcast. Zach, what did you watch this week?
So, I broke my non-movie streak this week. Mm-hmm. I did watch zero television. So I went the other way.
I actually watched television.
Nick, if I were to ask you what movie you thought Street Gang was about, what would you say?
Street Gang. I would think The Warriors. Does that age me? It shouldn't.
Interesting. Well, no. Like, if I told you the title of this movie is called Street Gang, what would you think it's about?
Oh no, Street Sharks.
Like a Warriors?
Street Sharks.
Street Sharks.
Do you remember Street Sharks?
Okay. I love Street Sharks. Yeah, it's terrible, but I love it. So, Street Gang, or How We Got to Sesame Street, is a documentary.
God. What the fuck? No. You tricked me. I thought this was going to be like a true crime thing. Is this a true crime thing? Did they solve... Did they solve who killed Mr. What's his name?
Mr.
Sweeney?
Hooper?
Oh, yeah, Hooper.
Yeah, they did solve that. It was age.
That
did that. They did a whole episode
fuck you,
on
Time.
it. Yeah. No, but for real, fuck you, Time. So yeah, Street Gang, or How We Got to Sesame Street, is a documentary about the creation process and kind of some of the bigger moments of its early days in its broadcasting history. It starts out very much like these are the players who got it up off the ground. Here's your I believe her name is Julie Coons, and then there's John Stone, and eventually, obviously, you get Frank Oz and Jim Henson in there, and it's just kind of about how they came from different backgrounds and partnered with actual educators to provide this public television show for mostly inner city kids who didn't have the available resources that a lot of more middle class kids did growing up. And just kind of how revolutionary it really was for the time. It is less of a full-blown history of the show, as much. It's more of like, here's how it got started for the first
it's like the bullet
hour.
Points kind of like their history.
Yeah, like they hit the big bullet points like within the first 40 minutes or so, and then from there they kind of do this thing where they pick individual people. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's clearly some sort of plumbing thing going up in my upstairs neighbor's house. Yeah.
Just imagine like a bathtub falling by.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like, honestly, half the time. So very much looking forward to being out of here in a week. But anyway, it does the initial early history, and then from there it kind of like goes into the individual stories for some of the visionaries of the show. So it does, a whole thing on John Stone. Doesn't really do much on Frank Oz. He's kind of like bundled in with Jim Henson's story. And then it kind of cuts off the history like around Henson's death. That's a general. It's about where it ends. There's not too much more after that. So it is less of like I said, a full blown history as a like the title says, just kind of a primer of like, this is how it was made, sort of thing.
Right.
But all that being said, it was a very enjoyable watch. If you are interested in any sort of TV production, sort of information, or even teaching, it goes into a lot of the theory behind like how they basically marketed teaching techniques as commercials to kids, because they saw that kids were going around and seeing like Budweiser and Oscar Mayer Wiener songs, and just were like, let's use the strategies that the advertisers are using to reach these kids to teach them stuff. And then it kind of like goes into how it sort of is like this madhouse of creativity and, you know, off the cuff humor. Like it's very similar to if you were to look at the Muppets, where it's this thing that obviously, you know, much the same people involved with that, that there's like this satirical, like deep cut kind of black humor to it, mixed with wholesome sort of content, and then Sesame Street obviously being more marketed towards children in general. It's kind of like the Nickelodeon effect, where you're not talking down to kids, you know, you're talking with them. And that allows for some really funny stuff. They showed bits. Hi. They showed bits
Lilo has something
from.
to say.
Yeah, he does. Do you like Sesame Street? They showed some bits from its early runs, and I was legitimately laughing at some of them, because, you know, they bridged the line of like, here's the base content of like, we are teaching you stuff, and it's like also stuff that only adults would really get, because and they go into the theory behind that, where it's like they're looking at the data, like they did all these tests and stuff to make sure that what they were creating was interesting enough for kids that they would retain the information. And part of that data set was that if parents would watch along with their kids, the conversations that they would have during and after the show helped solidify the stuff that they learned even more. So it's a really interesting kind of dive into not only the history, the early history of the show, but also the theory behind it. So if that sounds interesting at all to you, then I would definitely take a look at it. It's quite enjoyable and interesting. And then the other thing I watched, because I was like, you know what, I'm feeling that. So let me go in the exact opposite direction, and I watched
Full-blown porn.
A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, pretty close. Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. Went in similar directions there. Why? Why A Clockwork Orange?
So the Street Gang, the Sesame Street documentary, is on HBO Max.
Oh, okay. I was gonna Street Gang, so I thought, of course, Stanley Kubrick.
No, it's on HBO Max. Clockwork Orange is also on HBO Max, so it's sort of like all right, I'll throw it on, and the next thing I know, it's 5 a.m. because I started a 2 hour and 40-minute movie at 3 o'clock.
Wow, I'm gonna notice a theme
I was like, so I had seen A Clockwork Orange before, and just as a primer for anyone unfamiliar, it is a Stanley Kubrick film based on the novel or novella by I think it's Anthony Burgess.
Yes.
By the same name, and it stars Malcolm McDowell as the main character, which is Alex DeLarge in the movie. I think he's just called Alex in the book. And it chronicles this sort of, they call it a dystopian Europe, or dystopian England, but it's like dystopian in the sense of this was made in 1977 or something like that. So it's like their cars look a little weird, but that's about it.
It's the budget with I mean, this came out, I believe, before Star Wars, but Actually, let me look that up.
Yeah, so the feeling of the like
It did.
dystopian era. Huh?
It did. It came out in 71.
Okay. Yeah, so it's very early, sort of like what would happen if it's like the theory of like dystopian meaning pretty much the same, just like really fucked.
Yeah, really gross, grimy.
It's like no bombs went off or anything, just like everyone's fucking miserable.
Yeah, no one's taking out the
nobody's
trash.
like the political machinations of everyone like trying to outdo each other or like outmaneuver one another like takes precedence over people being able to survive. That it's that sort of dystopian kind of vision, less so like your Hunger Games or Diversions or whatever that you would typically
Right.
think of with the term now. And Alex is this teen who enjoys himself a little bit of the old ultra violence. So he likes going out with his gang and causing ruckuses, beating people amongst much worse things.
Adult men drinking milk, by the way, as a thing.
So this is interesting. It's like Clockwork Orange is the sort of movie where, again, I had seen it before. I had seen it when I was probably way too young to watch it. At like 15.
I mean, that's around that time when they're introducing the book in high school. So is it really like too young?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I never read. I mean, I have read before, but I never read the book.
I've never read before. My wife
I've
buys
never
books
read
all
before.
the time, and I don't know what those words mean.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like yeah, I don't know. It seems like looking back on it, it's like one of those movies where it's like obviously you watch this at about the time when everyone like teenagers are looking for that sort of
Yeah.
thing. They're like, oh, I'm gonna watch all the R-rated classic masterpieces that I haven't been able to watch
Brave New World,
up till
Fahrenheit
now.
451,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Exactly. And obviously
Bump my knee.
you know being younger, some things you don't internalize some of the things that are going on in the narrative as much as like the bigger like broad themes of what it's commenting on, and you're just like this is kind of a weird movie, and it's pretty violent and disturbing at times. But as a younger person, there's obviously stuff that you're gonna miss. So going back to it, it's also that sort of movie where after you're done, you're like, let me do the wiki dive on this. Yep. So you go in and that's where I found out that it's not just milk. And they kind of mention it in the opening scene, like because the teen, rabble has like their weird vernacular that they're using, which is like
not like Middle English, but it's like it's weird future doublespeak kind of English.
Yeah, it's like I think the wiki said it was like a mixture between Russian and Slavic or something like that. So they're the way they're talking is just kind of like it sounds like gibberish, but you can kind of still get the context of it. And basically, the milk bar is milk laced with drugs. Is what it comes down to.
Still gross.
It is. It's how the movie opens too, which is like, oh, okay, this is weird.
Guess what? If you're an adult person and you're drinking milk out of a glass recreationally, go see a therapist.
That's fine.
No, it's weird. It's weird. Zach, look at me.
I mean, if you're just having a glass of milk at home, I don't think there's really that weird. I think that's something you need to examine about yourself.
No, lactose intolerance aside, it's a weird thing. Because honestly, no, you get the nutrients that you need from and you drink fucking coffee, which isn't putting milk in the coffee. That's fine. That's different. That's mixing it with something.
I drink coffee black, sir. I do not put milk in my coffee.
You like your coffee like you like your men.
Exactly.
There you go. No, I honestly think and maybe I've been waiting for this moment to talk about this, but Zach, honestly, drinking milk recreationally out of a glass is very odd.
Sure. I mean, if that's the hill you want to
That's
die
a
on,
hill
that's
I'm willing to
fine.
sacrifice myself on. I wouldn't necessarily say die because I know I'm not alone. There are literally dozens of us.
What do you mean? Dozens of us. What do you mean by sacrifice then? If you don't consider,
Because I will
die?
survive this argument, coming out the other side, like Custer did, alive and well.
Yeah, that's what happened.
No, it's whatever. I think milk laced with drugs, drinking with your friends, that's different. And actually, people do that.
So you're pro drug milk.
I think if you mix the milk with something else, it's different, you know? And again, lactose intolerance aside.
It is different.
I am willing to make that. I just fucking had ice cream the other day, so I'm...
Just a man of hypocrisy.
I don't know what I'm defending anymore, honestly. I think I'm...
A man of contradictions. Yeah, you're just arguing to argue.
No, ice cream laced with something. I can get behind that even more than just the milk. Because when you mix the milk with the sugar, whatever.
So, Clockwork Orange. It's interesting going back and watching it. I don't think I've watched it since the first time I watched it. And just kind of, it's a movie that is like not a fun movie.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't stop watching it, you know?
It's like watching a car crash.
Yeah. And, you know, the broader themes, you know, speaking to like humanity and moralism and whether or not if that moralism is dictated by government bodies, if it even counts, and you know that whole thing. There's you could look up just a Clockwork Orange and find probably 150 theory papers on you know all the minutia in not just the film but the book.
Hence why it's taught in schools.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it was a fun watch. But it was interesting to go back and watch it after so much time.
Interesting. I'm glad that you were able to educate yourself not only with Sesame Street, but with sexual assault in film. Yeah, that's great.
Well, don't say it like that.
Well, no, I mean it's an uncomfortable film to watch, right? I mean, with the amount of puppets and the history behind Sesame Street, I think I got you. I crossed over the two things that you watched.
You did.
I got you.
You crossed the streams.
I crossed the streams. That's a Ghostbusters reference.
Yeah, the first like 15, 20 minutes or so are probably the most shocking, honestly. And then from there, it kind of just levels out, surprisingly.
Because Alex is not the hero. He's the protagonist of the story, and
even that I wonder if it's our main character. I struggle to say there are any redeeming characters in this film. Maybe
I don't
one person in the prison, but other than that,
I would like to say that I think protagonist is really just defining who he is when it comes to how the story is influenced and who the story centers around. Really, I mean, he is the main character and everything, but like, if that character didn't exist, would the story happen? Kind of thing.
Well, and that's honestly, yes, it would, and that's part of the narrative as well. Is that he's treated as this kind of cog in the machine. And used by other people for their own personal gains. Not to say that he himself isn't, I like he's described, I think, by not only Burgess, the original author, but Kubrick as like the epitome of evil. Like he's not someone that you're supposed to root for, but like at the same time you're seeing all the systemic stuff that makes people like him and kind of excuses his behavior or like treats him less than to exacerbate that behavior. and instead of like getting people the help that they need to not only make themselves better but society better, as a whole. Whereas it's like the almost mission statement of the story is to get the viewer to feel bad for Alex, even though he's a reprehensible human being.
Right.
And it does that by showing just how fucked his surroundings are.
No, it's society's fault.
Yes, we do live in a society.
We live in a society.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was, like I said, interesting to go back and watch. Are you gonna say? Oh,
I'm looking at the dog like everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't care about us.
That's okay. He's more important anyway.
That's true. But that's all you watched?
That is all I watched. So that's it for me, sir. Tell me, regale me of what you watched this week.
Well, I shall
paint me a word picture.
I shall regale you with 2 things that I watched on HBO Max.
Oh,
one thing I watched on HBO Max and one thing that will be on HBO Max eventually. So that kind of counts.
That's a weird way to phrase that.
You know, it's any way to kind of bundle this whole episode together. You know, it's the HBO Max episode, and actually,
HBO Max. We know you just got sold, so if you need a sponsor,
Warner Brothers, remember Warner Bros. Come on, Chad.
Come on, Discovery. Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
I will suck your dick.
Just what you want from a sponsor.
Let me do it. Let me do it. Anyway, so I actually, I'll squeeze in a third thing that was also on HBO Max that I watched.
Yeah, squeeze it.
Okay, wait, no, we gotta back away from that. So the first thing I watched was Our Flag Means Death, which is the new show starring Reese Darby and co-created by Taika Waititi, who shows up along with several celebrity guests along the 3 episodes that they premiered at earlier this week. And it's all about the story of Stede Bonnet, a real-life buccaneer / pirate who is referred to as the Gentleman Pirate, and who would go on many adventures, and I won't spoil the end, but it was not what I did like about the way that this series kind of frames itself, I thought it was just going to be a straight up like sitcom. You know, this is,
Is it already done? Because when I just checked last night, there were only 3 episodes.
Because they just premiered 3 episodes, but they're gonna like weekly release episodes.
Oh, I thought. Well, the way you phrased it made it sound like it was already.
Oh,
over,
no.
Or like that it was a movie.
No. Sorry, 3 episodes, but that's because they launched with 3 episodes and they'll release weekly. I could not tell you how many that they're planning on. Maybe 9 or 10. I don't know. With Righteous Gemstones, they do 9 episodes each. And check out Righteous Gemstones. Fantastic. But that just finished. But Our Flag Means Death it's this story that follows Stede Bonnet, who's just starting out as a pirate. He left his wife and kids and his cushy estate to go be a pirate because he felt unfulfilled and unloved. And turns out he's a shit pirate because he's not a terrible person. And you have
go figure.
Yeah. So he's struggling with manning a crew, robbing. The first people that they rob are like these 2 older fishermen, and they just steal like their fucking plant, and that's it. And they're like, "Be on your way," and he just puts it on it like his desk. He's like, "Pretty good haul, huh?" And it's Hodor shows up as one of the pirates in his crew, I think for only 1 episode, though. It's weird. Leslie Jones, Fred Armisen, Taika Waititi, like I said, although Taika Waititi is going to play a much larger role. They're kind of like hinting at him because he plays Blackbeard as playing a major influence into the story. But what I was saying earlier is that what I like about it is that it's not just a straight up sitcom, situational comedy, if you will, where it sets up the premise of 1 episode and then that plays off either for that episode or plays into the next one. It's actually like, I wouldn't say it's serious, because none of the characters are like totally serious. Obviously, you have fucking Korg playing Blackbeard, or the guy from Flight of the Conchords, or Jumanji, depending on how old you are, is playing the main character, and just kind of some swashbuckling fun. It's kind of like if Pirates of the Caribbean didn't take itself as serious as it did. You know what I mean? Like if it was, it's got like serious dramatic moments, but it's more about like, how can this character fuck this up even more so, you know? And I like it so far. It's surprisingly well budgeted. I was kind of amazed at how much they've been able to get away with like sets and CGI and everything. It looks like Warner Brothers kind of put the money where their mouth is with this. It came out of the blue. I saw ads for it starting like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, "What? Wait, what is this?" And I'm like, "Cool title. Rhys Darby, I like. Taika Waititi, I like. Let's get into this." And
it did just sort of show up. There wasn't really a whole lot of lead into it. Like and HBO comedy shows are kind of weird like that. They don't really market them like they do their dramas or their, not their fantasies or, whatever. Right. They just kind of happen to appear, which is very strange because comedy was like a pillar of what HBO started with. So it's always weird that they just kind of shove it to the side and then just like, hope some people watch this, I guess.
Especially when, especially when normally, not this show in particular, especially when 30-minute sitcoms are so much easier to produce and so much easier, you get so much more return from them. But they're investing more in their content. They're seeing what Netflix has been doing over the last decade and a half, and they're going, well, sometimes you need to spend more money to make money. They did that last year with their day and date releases. They've been doing that with buying up specific companies and integrating them into their streaming service. I mean, you have Adult Swim, Studio Ghibli, you have exclusive rights for, you have Cartoon Network, you have all kinds,
Godzilla.
Well, yeah, when it comes to IP, they have like, The Matrix. They have all of their franchises as well, which is why they're trying so much to push into, hey, Game of Thrones prequel, just get fucking ramped up for that, because we're going to start advertising the hell out of that.
You're going to have to watch, what's the prequel series called? Blood and
House
Iron,
of the Dragon?
What is it? House of the Dragon, yeah. Oh, Blood and Iron got canceled, didn't it?
That was the one that they spent $10 million on, and they're like, nah.
Yeah, no. House of the Dragon. You're going to have to watch House of the Dragon to be able to pick out the characters in Space Jam 3.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's all tied together. Anyway, Our Flag Means Death is a fantastic 30-minute. I don't even want to call it a sitcom, but it's a comedy drama. It's not even super dramatic either. It's kind of just a lighthearted adventure comedy
romp.
Looking forward to that.
A roll in the hay, if you will.
The next thing I watched was Gaming Wall Street, which is a documentary. Two-part documentary.
I did pass over this, and I'm like, do I want to? No, I don't want to. I'm going to watch the one about Sesame Street. That seems more enjoyable.
And then he watched A Clockwork Orange, so it's like you didn't know what you wanted.
I don't know.
But I ended up watching it. It's narrated by Kieran Culkin, which was just fantastic, like tongue-in-cheek casting there. But it's all about the short squeeze of GameStop stock that happened last year, and
the Wall Street Bets
Reddit thing
stuff.
And it kind of goes, it not vaguely, they go into depth. They go over it, but also don't go into huge detail without eventually diverting into, here's what's fucked up about Wall Street and how they're affecting the entire world economy. And it's in 2 parts, each an hour long. And what I did like about episode 1, mainly focusing on how people were fucked over by Wall Street just in general, but also by becoming retail investors at home, armchair investors. And when they started to realize that, wait, there's a way that we can manipulate how the system works, then they get fucked over. Spoiler alert, Robinhood, fuck you. Even though it could have easily have been any other, app where you're able to do that.
Oh, they were all pretty much doing
Long story short, the people at home who are investing, their life savings into stocks because they think that that's the way that they're going to invest in their future, and they end up getting screwed over. And
the answer is it's not for you. Stop it.
Yeah. It's for rich people, of course, to put their money and avoid, paying taxes and bullshit. I ended up coming out the other side of episode 2 just kind of angry, just rationally angry at how the system is fucked up and how the documentary didn't seem to find, and I'm not saying that it needs to give you an answer or a solution to the problem that it poses or the retelling of events, but why make it if you're just going to make me sadder about giving me this info?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of documentaries.
And why I don't watch documentaries. I don't want to come out the other side just being fucking depressed.
I was going to say, that's why you should watch Street Gang, but literally, the last 20 minutes...
is about Jim Henson being dead.
It's about Jim Henson dying.
I want you to tell me a documentary where it doesn't end in sadness. What's a documentary recently?
Hold on. No, Class Action Park definitely ends in sadness.
It's because the world is a terrible, terrible place, Zach.
Let me watch Donut King and then I'll get back to you.
What the fuck is Donut King?
Summer of Soul, it's a bummer up front, but then, ends relatively jovially.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Contextually speaking.
It's actually on my list because it is nominated for Best Documentary, so... Yeah. It's the only one that's really accessible.
I will take some of your time to once again reiterate that Summer of Soul is fantastic. Okay. So watch it.
All right.
So getting back to Gaming Wall Street, that's what it's called, right? So they use the inciting sort of Wall Street bets stuff to intro you more into kind of how the stock market is generally gamed, as it were.
Yes, and it is informative. It is very easy to it's very approachable in its context. If you feel like you don't know anything about investing, anything about the stock market, they do summarize everything pretty well, pretty basically. But when they dive into how Wall Street fucks over people with naked shorts and basically cash grabs at specific dying companies, it all feels a bit scummy and it all feels a bit shitty. And you come out the other end of this documentary once again feeling like you can't do anything. I even hypothetically came up with a solution to this problem, and I was watching this with my Russian supermodel roommate, and they were like, I don't know if that will work. I don't. And honestly, our living situation with him being Russian these last couple of weeks has not been great. But even after watching this documentary, I can tell you that, we're both. It's a big bummer.
It's a downer
apartment, Yeah. So.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Let's talk about the
welcome
Batman.
I was gonna say welcome to the documentary fold. Enjoy being sad.
I mainly watched it because they are more interested in investing and stuff like that, and they were able to explain any of the gaps that this documentary may have provided. I may have missed, but like the movie magic, you may have missed if you miss out on this podcast. Yeah. Hey-ho! Who am I promoting to?
Hey, yo!
Let's talk about the Batman. This is the reason why people probably...
I'm the Batman.
Oh, that was good. Ooh. I'm the Batman. I can't hear myself. Was that good?
Yeah, that was good.
I'm the Batman.
I'm the Batman.
Let's talk about Matt Reeves, the Batman.
Let's go cycle through all these different voice modulations.
I am the Batman.
Oi, right, I'm the Batman.
I'm the Batman. I don't know what's wrong with his mouth. Robert Pattinson. What accent does Robert Pattinson have? Where is he from?
Well, it was American.
He's not American. Are you serious?
I don't know.
Did you not know Robert Pattinson was British?
I just thought he could put on a really good English accent.
No, he's from London. He's from just straight London.
Oh,
and
good for him.
He is dating Suki Waterhouse. Didn't know that. Anyway, Matt Reeves, the Batman. So this is one of the main reasons why I watched those Planet of the Apes movies from the last episode.
You went down. Which, by the way, you ushered into reality, the follow-up.
Yeah.
The sequel.
Well, I was looking that up when I was watching War for the Planet of the Apes, and came to find out that sequel has been in the works ever since they were in production for War. And then I think I told you after the episode when we recorded that it was originally going to be called like Planet of Men, like a twist on that. But I don't see how, if it's going to be a continuation of this past trilogy, how that's going to be possible given the events of that trilogy.
Shut up, watch our monkey movie.
Yeah, exactly. And that's basically what that's going to be, is like, hey, this Batman director, he did these monkey movies, and so be excited for this monkey movie that's coming out. And hopefully Andy Serkis is still involved with his production company. Anyway, Matt Reeves, the Batman, written by Matt Reeves, and I have the notes here. Peter Craig, who also wrote The Town and Bad Boys for Life, and starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell, Paul Dano, and Jeffrey Wright.
So quite a heavy-hitting list.
And John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. I don't know why I didn't write him down. He's fantastic in this. He plays a much larger role than I thought he was, because he's not featured at all, like in marketing or in the.
Well, I mean, like the Falcone is kind of like a villain it's a comics villain, more or less. Like he's in the movies, like the other movies, but it's like nobody's really gonna remember Falcone over Riddler and Penguin, and
because he's not as fantastical. He's not as like
he's just a mob guy.
He's a mob guy, but he's a platform for those other villains to kind of be introduced into the story. Yeah. And because of the grounded nature of this film, it's kind of necessary. And
so, sorry, before you get too far into it, I want to kind of dig into this grounded thing, because when Nolan's Batman movies were coming out, that was the draw of them, is that they were quote unquote grounded. Now, from what I'm hearing, this is even more so.
Yes.
How
is it more grounded than the Nolan films? I will say that both of them are still hold comic book type of moments, but where Christopher Nolan has actually, no, they both have pretty comic booky moments where Batman has a bomb blow up straight in his face in the Batman, and he's totally fine. He brushes it off. But Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy has it's a different type of grounded. It's kind of hard to explain. Whereas Christopher Nolan is kind of always going to have those films where it has a sort of gentlemanly, like, I'm wearing a suit, characters are wearing suits. It's a very professional, grounded reality. I mean, he's still being hooked by a plane that's flying above like 100 feet in the air at speed, flying through a building with a person attached to him, and he's totally fine. No fucking whiplash whatsoever for either of them involved. Totally fine. It zips back up into the plane. He's going back. He finds a way to get back to Gotham with not only no money, but with somehow a fixed back in the span of like a month. And then,
well, you're talking about
I'm talking about both. I mentioned Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Even in Batman Begins, the guy catches fire and then falls like 3 stories and is totally fine with no injuries whatsoever. So it's Batman. It's a comic book movie. Even if it's grounded, there's going to be fantastical elements. There's a moment.
That's kind of what I was.
There's even a moment in the Batman, this latest film, where, like I said, he gets blown up directly in the face. It's in the trailer. I'm not spoiling anything. Don't worry. I'm not going to spoil the story.
There's an explosion.
You see it in the trailer. But there's also a moment that's not in the trailer that's hinted at where he is using his flight suit. And for just a few brief moments during that scene, there are some questionable camera angles and questionable, like, physics-defying landing capabilities that should not work. That you just kind of take at face value because you're already in, baby. You're halfway through the movie. Strap in for even more. You know, there's quite a bit of it. But I think when people are describing it being grounded and they're describing the grittiness, the kind of film noir. This is like Sin City, you know, Frank Miller Sin City.
Grimy.
This is, you know, a David Fincher film in everything but name.
Well, and part of the initial descriptor with this film is that it was going to be Batman mixed with Seven.
Yeah.
So I mean that tracks.
Okay, so I actually go through with this, or I go over this in my review, and I think it's probably just better if I describe, or if I go through my review. So I'm going to do that. I know this is kind of unprecedented,
Okay.
but I felt like I was...
It's a masterpiece theater with Nixon.
I mean, it's my words. I'm not taking someone else's words or like going over anything, but bathed in grime, rain, and neon red lights, Gotham is a city on the brink. 2 years into his stint as the Batman, Bruce Wayne thinks he hasn't made a difference since he began. There is Batman narration in this film, which is fantastic.
Oh.
I thought it was because we're not getting into the mind of Batman for literally any other incarnation unless he's talking to someone else. We're not getting his thoughts as something is happening or as... Yeah. I mean, you get kind of that feeling with Rorschach in Watchmen, and obviously that character is inspired by Batman, but we never really get inside the mind of Batman and how he reacts to how his city changes and how he interacts with these characters. And it's not like throughout the course of the whole film. It happens sporadically, but it is well appreciated. Gangsters, drugs, and corruption are prevalent, and he is only one man. He can't be everywhere at once. This is Gotham year 2. I don't think year 2 was year 2 a comic series. I know year 1 was, and that was one of the major inspirations. But no,
I'm trying to remember. It either goes year 2 or year 0, but I don't.
Doesn't matter. It's early in Batman's career. It's kind of the era that is skipped over, at least with the nearly every live action adaptation.
It's as he's getting started.
It's as it's getting started. He has the suit. He has the training, whether that's through Alfred or through other masters. It's never really explained, but he knows how to fight and he knows how to defend himself, and he has the technology basically. But it's still new and it's still something he's not used to. When he uses the suit in the film, small spoiler, you could tell that this is the first time he's used it. So that being said, and he's being introduced to these characters that are well known in the Bat lore, if you will, the Batman lore, with Colin Farrell's Penguin, who is a highlight in my opinion, and he's fantastic as somewhat of a comic relief, but also as a looming presence.
Can you tell it's him? Because in the trailers, I cannot tell.
Over time, you can. When the scene lingers, you kind of can. But if you choose to turn off that part of like trying to recognize if you choose to turn off the thinking part of your brain and enjoy the film, and I know that's kind of taboo to kind of say, you know, just turn your brain off, it'll work. You know, Fast 9 is actually a pretty incredible film.
Well, I think in general that's used as a crutch for movies that maybe could have tried a little better. Not in the sense of like what do you call it? Like narrative dissonance.
Right. Yeah. But in this case, it's just kind of like when you're watching an animated film and you know a celebrity voices a character and you're like, I can't recognize that character. I'm trying to think of who that is. And you're doing that throughout the whole film and you're not paying attention and enjoying the film. That's what I'm trying to say, turn your brain off for. I'm not saying turn your brain off because you will lose the narrative of the what's going on when it comes to the crime, because
or it won't make sense if you think about it too hard.
Exactly, because there are several red herrings and loop-de-loops when it comes to solving certain mysteries in this film, and I will admit I kind of got lost for a second, and towards the third act they do kind of like, well, this is kind of this, so that's the answer, and Riddler's like,
yeah, all right.
you got me. Which doesn't diminish the film at all. I still, by that point you're fully into the movie, you know.
Yeah.
Fantastic cinematography from Greek Fraser. The score I fucking love and also hate, because not only is it unique in its own way, but it also heavily influences one 4-note progression throughout the entire soundtrack, and it's a bit obtuse in my opinion. And like, not a music connoisseur, not a soundtrack connoisseur, but listening back to the soundtrack after leaving the theater, because I like to do that when I recognize a good soundtrack. I'll listen to the soundtrack if it's on Spotify. I listen back to it and I'm like, a lot of these songs sound similar. A lot of these songs.
It's a leitmotif.
Yeah. Yes. Is it leitmotif or leitmotif?
I thought it was light, but either way, it's
I feel like we should know.
French or Latin. I don't know.
It's like da, 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 da. That's the Jurassic Park leitmotif. That's the "You're Here at the Park," or
or the
dun, dun,
Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
does it a lot. Where you
yeah, it's kind of like it's a theme song basically.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that will pop up in your what do you call it?
I don't know.
It's like organization. It's like a musical term. It appears in a lot of your different tracks throughout your soundtrack.
Exactly. It's kind of like it's a theme or thesis that, and I get that that's what they're trying to do, and that's what. Oh my God! I already blanked on who it is. No! I got it. Don't do anything. Shut up, Zach. Stop looking at me. Look down at the ground. Michael Giacchino, who is well known.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not. I'm not saying
that's kind of different for him.
Oh, it is. Yeah, but
'cause, I mean, if you are unaware, he did the soundtrack for Up. I think he did Lost. He's generally known, from what I understand, to be like very like light,
Zootopia,
and airy.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, Inside Out, Let Him Go, which came out last year, An American Pickle, Jojo Rabbit, Spider-Man: Far From Home, Bad Times at the El Royale, Incredibles 2, Jurassic World. He War for the Planet of the Apes. He's up there.
Prolific.
He's prolific. Rogue One, Doctor Strange, Zootopia, Star Trek series, the Jurassic series. Yeah. He's Warner Brothers like go-to, and I'm not saying as an alternative, but he's like, we don't want to use Hans Zimmer. He already did a Batman theme. Let's
literally everything.
He's literally done like every other major huge franchise. Let's do Michael Giacchino, or let's do Lorne Balfe, or let's do Junkie XL. But he already did a Batman theme, so let's move on to someone else. But I do like what he does, because he's using the influence of Something in the Way by Kurt Cobain and Nirvana by extension, and using that theme and using the underlying note progression from that as the Batman theme. The only problem that I have with him using that in the soundtrack is that his leitmotif is so prevalent, because the leitmotif is so loud, and it's like, I get it. It's a great theme. Love the soundtrack. It's just, I wish that there was a little bit more diversity in the throughout the course of the album, if you will.
And I imagine that's something that's exacerbated as well with the runtime.
Yes, because there are plenty of tracks, and he does go through different versions of the same leitmotif. Even the Riddler has a theme, obviously, and so does Catwoman. But the Riddler, his theme is based off of Ave Maria, a very popular opera song. Which Paul Dano does sing at one point, which is fantastic. Anyway, let's get back to the movie. Soundtrack sound great. And I watched this in IMAX, by the way, full disclosure. During the car chase scene, which is in the trailer, when he's chasing down Penguin, oh man, the seat was shaking. And it was rumbling, and my balls were like, "Whoa, what's happening here?" I feel like I'm sitting right next to him. It was great. It was a great experience. That car chase scene is probably one of the best moments in a Batman film. Honestly,
wow.
The way that it's filmed, the way that the tension kind of builds up to that moment, the reveal of the Batmobile just to begin with, it's chef's keys, I will say. Moving on to the meaning of the sign. I mean, the Riddler being introduced in the film, he's wearing a very specific and unique getup, very inspired by the Zodiac Killer of the 70s. And that's very obvious. I even mentioned that in my review. I'll go back to that real quick. The Batman is a film of many influences. Matt Reeves dipped not only into popular Batman comics, but crime dramas such as Zodiac and Seven, and it is felt quite heavily. Not only that, but during the course of my screening, I felt the paint strokes of cinematic Batmans of yesteryear. Make no mistake, this film has lineage. The biggest thing that I felt, I came out of the movie going, this Batman is a Batman that is inspired. And I think a lot of people enjoy this film because it reminds them of a previous Batman film that they love, whether it's the characterization of a certain portrayal of a character. Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, far and above Anne Hathaway's. Sorry, Anne Hathaway, not sorry, Anne Hathaway.
She's barely in
the movie. Zoe Kravitz is very prevalent in this story because she's very heavily involved in the kind of B plot of the film. Although the A plot and the B plot are very interconnected, if you will. But she has her own story that she's trying to have, and Batman kind of gets involved in there. But she's great. Love her. And the fact that she's played Catwoman before in the Lego Batman movie, little fun fact for you. I thought this is great because she's already committed to this role, and so was Robert Pattinson. So was Paul Dano. Paul Dano already coming out, with every other Batman villain who's ever played a villain in the last couple decades. Or I lost sleep, getting into the mind of this serial killer kind of character.
Can we, at this point, actors, can you not get into the mind of your Batman villains? Hey, it seems like a bad idea.
Hey, you remember Heath Ledger, right? And how that drastically affected his mood and how that affected him personally. I'm not gonna go down into the nitty-gritty of how tragic the result. And I'm not blaming the Dark Knight or Christopher Nolan or the studio or anything. He specifically went into the mindset of that character because he wanted to portray the best version of what he saw on the page. But don't do that to yourself. Don't do that. Don't be a Daniel Day-Lewis. There's a reason he quit. You know why? He's fucking tired.
He's tired.
He's very tired.
It takes it out of you.
So Paul Dano, please. We need a Swiss Army Man 2. Come on. We need a Little Miss Sunshine 2. Ask your bud Steve Carell. Come on. Get him back. But what I will say is that the Riddler is very much inspired by Heath Ledger's The Joker. Very much inspired by Heath Ledger's The Joker. The influences, and the reason I brought them up in the review is because they're so important to the story. They're so woven into the DNA of this film. The grittiness of the Sevens and the Zodiacs and David Fincher's entire filmography, if you will. And the Batman films of the past, the Tim Burtons, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, like I said, with the obvious comparison. The way that the story unfolds is very much inspired by Batman stories in the past. I mean, the comics, have always been an influence on the films. They always are. You can, if you are even remotely experienced or knowledgeable and aware of the Batman history, if you've read The Long Halloween, if you've read Batman Ego, if you've read Batman Year One, it's there. You know, Matt Reeves didn't have to do too much to translate the pages to the big screen, although he has had a long time to do that. This film has been in the works since 2017, and I'm glad that it's getting the reception that it deserves, because who would like to work on something for 5 years and then it get like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes because some fucking Zack Snyder fanboy thinks, well, this isn't directed by Zack Snyder, so what the fuck? You know, oh, this wasn't the Batman that we deserve with, and I'm only bringing this up because fucking shitheads on Rotten Tomatoes and internet forums are like, this should have been the, I almost said Ben Stiller. This should have been the Ben Affleck directed, with Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke story. And I'm like, do you really want that?
They do, yeah. They absolutely do.
I mean, but like in a universe where like you got the Snyder cut, congratulations, your whining and complaining got you the fucking oatmeal that you...
But they'll never stop.
Yeah, you'll never stop, but guess what? That's it. Warner Brothers is not going to give you the director's cut of the Batman because this is the director's cut of the Batman. Warner Brothers is not going to give you any more shit. I'm going to eat my words, aren't I?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Now announcing the Snyderverse Part 2.
Infinity Train, whole series, please. Renew that shit. Yeah. God damn it. The Batman. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I was going to ask 2 questions. One, is it too long? Do you feel the length? 2, how is Pattinson as Bruce Wayne / Batman?
Let me answer the second question first, because I like to fuck with you like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robert Pattinson is probably the best Batman in live action.
Wow.
Is he the best Bruce Wayne? In this time, in the timeline of him becoming Batman and him like changing, going from being Bruce Wayne, the billionaire, I'm growing up into this this legacy, this dynasty of the Waynes, into changing to be this creature of vengeance, and I am no longer Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is dead. Bruce Wayne is gone. When it comes to that, I will say he is probably the best Bruce Wayne as well.
Wow. So high praise.
I honestly think that the way that he says everything but fuck you, Alfred, like every other time that he interacts with him, because he is this recluse. He's this, I don't give a shit. I'm going out and fighting crime because that is the way to fix the city that my parents supposedly were trying to fix as well. So
it portrays it as Batman being the real identity, yes, and Bruce Wayne being the fake.
It is persona. Overtly stated by not by Alfred, but by a character in the film. He's like, you are not Bruce Wayne. Batman is your real face. Like that is, that's not an exact quote, but that is somewhat, I'm paraphrasing. And I was just like, they've actually never done that in live action before. It's been mentioned in the comics. It's been mentioned in the comics, some of the cartoons or the adaptations of those. But to answer your first question, I do feel the length. You feel the length in the slower moments where he is actually being a detective. But what I will say is that he's actually being a detective. He's actually at the crime scene with the cops who don't trust him. Again, this is his second year as Batman, and they're like, "What the fuck is this guy in latex, doing at the scene of the crime? What the fuck, Gordon?" And Jeffrey Wright is like, "Just trust me on this." And he's solving the murder right in front of all of the cops who were there. and looking for the clues and all, but using like detective. Well, actually, I don't want to go too much into it, but he's able to do what you kind of experience playing the Batman Arkham games, where you're like going around and like, oh, the nick in the wall here means this, kind of lining up clues and like that. So the slower moments where he's actually unraveling and solving the mystery or learning about some of the...
Yeah, I saw that. It was a moth or something.
Was it?
I don't know. It's so thing flying around your head.
Great. It fucking stung. I do feel like the slower moments build up to the larger moments, and on reflection, and again, I was watching this pretty late, because my sleep schedule makes me very, very tired at like 9 p.m. And I went into this movie at 6, knowing fully well I was going to be fucking exhausted by the end of it. I actually plan on seeing it again either tonight or tomorrow night, to get a better picture. But I don't see my opinion really changing. But yes, to answer your first question, you do somewhat feel the length, and I do feel like you might be able to snip like a scene here, a scene there, but Matt Reeves really does fill up the runtime with important dialogue and important scenes. The very, 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 very end of the film, I do feel like they could have like, all right, come on, this is the end.
So you think there's a like a 4.5 hour cut of this movie floating around somewhere?
I think honestly, and he said it in interviews, and I believe him, that there is this is the definitive version of his film that he's been working on. I think if this was any other studio, they would have cut it down for sure, and it would have been less of a film because of it. But just make sure you pee before seeing this movie. People did not complain about adventures. Fucking hell. People did not complain about Avengers Endgame, and honestly, I understand their counter argument is, oh, it's been leading up to this for like 10 years, so people were really excited for all these characters. There's so many characters to introduce. I'm like, there's so many characters introduced into this, and why can't you just enjoy a 2 hour and 40-minute film?
Why can't you just enjoy is like the one question that you'll never get an answer from the internet.
That's because I don't ask the internet. I ask the person face to face. That's the only time I usually bring that up, is like when people ask me like, it's a pretty long film, don't you think? I'm like, yeah, but as long as you're enjoying yourself, you're not going to feel it. And going back to what I said not like 3 minutes prior, I felt the length, but again, there are some extenuating circumstances. It was later in the day for me, so I was already tired. I had just worked that day. And also, it's a 3-hour movie, so you're going to feel the length no matter what. It's just depending on the context of...
how much of a 3-hour movie doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie?
Like 10 minutes. So it doesn't even... like, you're... Wait 30 seconds and that slow scene will move into, oh shit, the Riddler's killing someone again, or oh, the Batman is like beating the shit out of this guy.
Oh, again.
Oh, okay.
God, this happens to me every time.
I'll finish up with the final part from my review here. I will not go into spoilers, but I will leave this review with this postscript thought. You just couldn't help yourself, could you, Mr. Reeves? There is a moment in the film where I wish it had gotten cut. I don't really say that about most of this film. Like I said, we were not complaining about the 3-hour runtime, just giving you context. There is a scene that I wish they cut because it would have made it more self-contained. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. I think I understand what I don't know exactly what you mean, but I think I understand what you mean.
Because I feel like if I say literally anything else, it will somehow leak into your Google, like algorithm, and you're gonna start getting articles about the movie. So just avoid the internet if you plan on seeing this movie, because even after I watched it Tuesday evening, it was already fucking everywhere. And I'm like, okay, There were already like leaks about this movie going into it, but yeah, just be careful. And go enjoy it with go into it with an empty bladder, and you'll be fine.
Words to live by.
Exactly. I will say this is a near perfect Batman film. This is literally when
nice.
My Russian supermodel roommate asked me what to rank it, like out of all the live action Batmans. So here's my ranking. All right, and
lay it on
you. Okay, Dark Knight, The Batman, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Sorry.
Hey, Dark Horse there. That's a good one.
I'm just saying it was in theaters, so
it's a good one. No.
Batman '89, Batman Returns, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, and then the Zack Snyder ones. It doesn't matter, or the last couple. Oh, okay.
Where are the Schumacher ones, man?
Oh my God!
You just can't have a definitive list without the Schumacher ones.
Okay, we'll start over. Actually, no. Let me recontextualize. Dark Knight and the Batman are both number one. They're both equal, in my opinion, because they're both equal. I'll just say that. They're both kind of different versions of telling a similar story. And then, oh fuck, I'm already gonna fuck up my rankings. And then, oh crap, what did I say as the one on?
What was the third one? Oh, what was the third? I remember what it was. This is gonna make or break you as a
Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
There you go.
And then it was Batman '89, Batman Returns, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and then Zack Snyder's Justice League, then Batman vs Superman, and then the original Justice League. So
hot damn, folks, you got it. We can all go home.
You know,
although you didn't do all of
Batman 66 is of course above all of them. So I did it. What did I forget?
The wasn't like Justice League War or something.
That doesn't. No. Those are the animated direct-to-DVD ones. Those don't count. But this has been Lights Camera Nonsense, giving you all the latest movie magic you may have missed. Make sure to tune in every week, except for next week, because we will not be here. Zach is moving, so maybe I'll do maybe I'll do a solo episode for 69, unless you want to be on the 69 podcast. Do you want to be on the 69 podcast?
I want a 69.
Make sure to tune in every week except for next week. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll not do anything. We'll see. Just stay tuned for all the latest news, reviews, and what else, Zach?
How do you do?
You cute little puppy. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.